Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
Good morning, everyone. It is Friday, May 24th, 2024. My name is John Piernunzi, and this is the opening swing. Let's begin today, as we always do, with our news. Out of Europe, we had the Great British Retail Sales number. It came in worse than expected. Europe, though, is still slightly up as of now, less than 1%, not really moving. Also had a speech by Schnabel and a few other second-tier numbers. Coming into the U.S. hours, we have durable goods as our 8:30 news driver, and we have Christopher Waller speaking at 9:35. Consumer sentiment at 10 a.m., and that is most of what I'll be paying attention to as an equity trader. We also have the Baker Hughes rig count at 1. That's what we have today. Let's take a look at some charts. What we're going to look at first, just very quickly, is our monthly chart, just briefly. Just to emphasize, we had this break in April of the monthly one time framing, and then we were able to hold this low and just resume higher to retest the all-time high. And now we have fallen back into this April range. We're still holding the upper quartile of the developing May range, which is the 70s. Key for me here is just, do we, as I've been emphasizing, these 33 halves, which is our former all-time high, that's kind of the over-under line for me in this area. Are we able to hold above the prior month and keep making progress, in which case our target is the all-time high? Or do we hold below the prior month, in which case I'll be looking at tests. Just what's identifiable on this chart is the 70s, but most importantly would be the midline of this range, which is around the 75s, also an option strike, also in confluence with this high. So that's what I would be looking at just on the monthly chart. Quick look at the weekly chart. What do we notice here? Hey, it's a red week. We haven't seen that in a while, huh? Not this month. So today, as in the last day of our week, I'm going to be paying attention to whether this candle remains red, or if we're able to get back above where the 33 halves, key area. So that's what we're seeing on the weekly. Let's go to our daily. Here it is. Daily chart. What have I been talking about on this chart? We opened the week and I talked about this high and I talked about this low, which I have now bound in green. And this is kind of a balanced range. I had mentioned this is a balanced range with an upward skew. So what do we see this week? We opened with this range and we tested higher, we tested lower, we tested higher again, and we tested lower, all without really meaningfully breaking this at all. And then what do we get yesterday? We got the break higher, which is a test, and the rejection lower. So test, rejection. And we broke and settled below our 0575s. So that puts a very special emphasis on this area today. And if we get above this area, a very special emphasis for me on the 33 halves. If we can't get above this area, then there's a special emphasis on settlement, on the prior low, and on 64s. So that is what I'm looking at today on this chart on a very big picture sort of way. This 64s, this is a prior weekly high, also an LVN. And then below here, we have our 45s to 50 region, which would be key below. This is our May VWAP. So this is kind of what I'm looking at on this chart, but the key first question is these 5756s, do we hold below this area or do we get back up into it? That's the key. Let's take a look on some smaller time frame charts and discuss further. Okay, this is our 4x5 PNF chart, which I use to look at structure. And we're just going to use it to reiterate a couple key things here. First being this as the lower bounds, this red line of our prior balance, and this being the upper bounds of our prior balance. And we see this reasonably normal distribution here, which we've been talking about. Within this area, the key for me, right here, we sort of have our VPOC region right around the key area I've been talking about, the 33 halves. And what I want to talk about here is just how this area above the 33 halves is an offer. It is resistance. Like, look at it. Imagine this is a pit and there's just some broker standing here willing to sell 5350s, like just some broker that has a million for sale. And every time the market rallies up, he's up here and he's selling. Yeah, I'll sell. Yeah, I'll sell. Yeah, I'll sell. And then everyone loses interest, falls back to the bid, which is 0575s. Another broker standing there. Yeah, I'll buy, I'll buy, I'll buy. And then up here, back up to that other broker, and he's willing, he's on the offer. And then for whatever reason, he leaves, he goes to the restroom. Boom, we get a test. Where'd that broker go? Oh, he's back. Okay. And then what happens? Where's that broker down here? He's filled. Boom. And we go down to the next test. So the thing to emphasize here is, to me, it looks like there are still sellers here that have stuff to sell. Or at least on the last test, they were. The last time we got up here. So for me, if we get back above this area, we have a minor speed bump at the 24s, but the 33 halves are really the key for me if we get above these 07s. If we hold below these 07s, then we're continuing price discovery lower, and settlement and yesterday's low are key. And then, as I mentioned, the 64s. But the key to see right here, like I said in this chart, is this area of balance, which we have rejected lower from. And the strength of any remaining selling will tell us, are we unable to get back in there, or do we get back above this area and hold and continue? We'll discuss that on the 8 box. Let's do it. Okay, so here on our 8 box, we'll just reiterate key areas. 07s, bounds of our balance, settlement, yesterday's RTH low. Below here, we have a prior week's high. It was 2 weeks ago, the 64s. Below the 64s, we have this 54 region down to the 50s, this whole area. Above here, kind of have these 16s as a smaller level. I mentioned the 24s, but the key region up here, like I said, is these anything above these 33 halves up to about 45. And then we have our 50 region, then obviously the all-time high with our RTH high right here as well. So these are the areas that I'm looking at. Let's talk about what could happen today in terms of sort of buckets of things that could happen. The first bucket that we'll talk about is if price holds below 06s. In no particular order, we'll just discuss this. If price is unable to get above the 06s, and we kind of, there's a few ways it could happen. We could sort of have a rounded top that doesn't really get there, and we fall down and get some type of an impulse to settlement. Settlement would be the first key. If we get a drop lower to settlement and then cannot even retest that, or maybe just continue to go, then the next target we'd look for is continuation lower to the RTH low. If the RTH low is not rejected for higher prices, we would look for the 64s. And I'll be honest, the 64s are my downside target today if we break. I'm less expecting us to go back past 64s. It's totally possible, but I'm kind of less expecting it. I would think we'd kind of like potentially come in, find some support just ahead of 64s, push higher, get back into range, get back above settlement, and then maybe either chop around, balance, or depending on the time, start moving higher. But I'm not really expecting us below 64s today. However, if we do drop below 64s, get some kind of a flush, this is one vola down into the 50s and then cannot get back above the 50s, then I would be open to excursion lower. The 40s would be the key test, and then the 33s and then our April, or I'm sorry, our May VWAP, as I says, in this area. If somehow we get excursion below this, I will be going by the stock zones, which I create and are available for all Convergent members. So that's what I'm thinking. So this is bucket one. Bucket one is an inability to trade or hold above 07s. Understand this also could happen with like some type of an early test that just pushes above, kind of chops. It's early, and then we get the impulse, which that would actually be better because it might give us more room to trade to target settlement. But that's another way it could happen. What we just don't want to see to kind of take this idea off the table. Taking this idea off the table would be if we get something a little bit closer to idea two, which we will go over right now. And I'll just get rid of all these to make it clean. So idea two would be a break and hold above this area. Idea one is we hold below. Idea two is a break and hold above 06s, in which case I would expect a push higher. Now settlement is open. Our overnight low here is 85.75s and our settlement is 85 quarters. So we have not retested settlement. Keep that in mind. Because if we do get bullish today, we may leave this settlement open and just go from here, or we may get kind of a fake out test to settlement, touches it, and then immediately above. But regardless, these 07s will be the key, whether we get above and we test and reject, or if we get above and we start pulling back, hold this area and continue. If we get above and we hold here, then obviously, like I said, the speed bump area we're looking for is 24s. But my key target for continuation higher is 33s. That would be my long trade today. If we get above these 06s, I would look to target 33s. And then up here, it would be another question mark. The question mark up here would be, for me, this is an area where we could see, like I said, the sellers coming back in and just kind of see more continuation lower, which could break or just become, see the sellers come in here, oops, or we could see the sellers come in right around here, and then it just becomes chop fest in this area for the rest of the day. So that's my scenario for if we get above here, I would be open to the long, looking for 24s and maybe 33s. Also, it's very possible that we hold this area and just keep going. You know, we just resume the bull bias and just keep going higher. That's possible. I mean, we know if we're beyond this area, then obviously we're looking for tests of, get rid of all this, above this area. We're looking for tests of the 49.50s. Again, above the 49.50s, the RTH high. Not really expecting that much today. I think if we get back up in here, we'll kind of hold it. That's what I'm kind of thinking. Could be wrong, however, to break and hold. So those are the two main buckets that I'm kind of looking at. Bucket one is just holding below this area, and then we're looking for settlement, and we're looking for the RTH low. Breaking above, I'm looking for 24s. I'm looking for 24s, and I'm looking for 33s. This area becomes a question mark on what happens here. We could reverse lower, or we could continue. I'm tending to think that if we get back up into this area that we tend to chop around. So that's what I'm thinking. This area and this area is the key important areas today. Also, just re-emphasizing, we could get a quick early test higher that then falls. I'll note that 16s are yesterday's RTH mid, so the 50% pullback of yesterday's range. So be aware of this price is where I think a lot of the late shorts would love to see this area hold, and it'd be nice if it did, but also we could see a stop run up into this area that just tests and then falls and continues. So keep in mind of those things, but for me, I'm keying off this area, I'm keying off this area. I'm going to mention a few other things right now before we close. First of all, with an impulsive day like yesterday, you really, in my opinion, really want to be aware of these categories of things that could happen. What are the categories? I'm kind of going over them. We could get either continuation, or we could get reversion, or we could get balance. So continuation, reversion, or balance. And the key on a day like today, in my opinion, is figuring out what is the environment, which are we getting. It might not be apparent on the open, or it may become very apparent right on the open. But the key for me today is figuring out which of these things is the market doing, and then how can I trade it? Which is it doing? How can I trade it? What you don't want to do today, in my opinion, is come in super gung-ho about what we're going to get, because that's how you can get too married to an opinion and end up taking a bunch of stops before the move even happens. There's a pretty good chance that we get some tradable activity today. Don't waste all your bullets early because you think you know what's going to happen. Wait to see which of these things will happen, because whatever happens today, it'll end up falling into one of these buckets. It might not be tradable, it might not be clear, but at the end of the day, you'll be able to look back and say it's one of these three things. So identify which before you risk your money. That's my advice to you on a day like today. And I think we could get some movement. One other thing I'll mention, kind of along those lines, sometimes on a day like today where it was super choppy, and then we have this big move yesterday, a lot of times you'll see people come in super gung-ho for more movement, kind of like what I was saying. And along with what I was saying before, sometimes the move that happens doesn't happen till later, occasionally on a Friday. So what that means is sometimes we get a runoff. So don't be surprised if we get some type of runoff where it's just a real lazy kind of like market that doesn't make sense. Maybe we're above, maybe we're below. It's not really clear which we're doing. This line is so key because it's and also keep in mind, because this 0607s, because it's so clear and I'm talking about it, don't be surprised if it ends up being a chop zone initially. Like it just chops around before all of a sudden, and you take a bunch of stops, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it is clear what's happening. So don't waste the stops until it's clear. If we get a runoff into the Friday close, I could see it happening in either direction. I don't usually trade those, but they do happen. But just be aware that it might be choppy early, and then we might get the move later. Or it might be choppy early, and then everybody just leaves for the weekend. So just be aware of those things. I really want to be spend a little bit more time talking about that today, because how you game plan for a Friday, how you game plan for a day after a big move is important. So I wanted to share some of that. I'm going to wrap it up because, shocker, the video went long again. But anyway, we'll wrap it up today. Hopefully everybody can get some good stuff done, clock some ticks today, and then go out and have a beautiful weekend. I hope everyone I hope everyone has a great morning and progress going. I hope that you can improve your trading today. I hope something I said helps. I hope you can make somebody else smile today. That's what I got for you today. Quick mention again, if you're not a Convergent member already, why? Why not? You get to hang out with me and Balance Trader and FT. We're a ton of fun. But we have a sale going on today. The code is, let me find it for you. Should have had this ready. I don't want to pause the video because I know probably just crash on me and I'll have to start all over. So MEMDAY24 is the discount code. It's 20%. So if you're not a member, jump on that. It's really great to see to be a part of a community of people doing what you're doing. I mean, for me personally, I used to be in an office. Being in an office was fantastic. Being at home is miserable. I wouldn't be able to do it if I didn't have all of my colleagues at Convergent helping me out each day. But that's what I got for you today. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.